Hello everyone, I am Aztec, and today I'm joined by a special guest since my usual co-host, An Hour to Kill, doesn't know very much about tech stuff. I don't think he even really likes it. He's the kind of person who just buys a pre-built computer every time he needs a new rig. Today I'm joined by my good friend Proto.
Hello.
And we're going to talk a little bit about Polaris and Pascal. And I think we should start with what AMD's goal was with Polaris and whether or not they succeeded. Their goal was basically to bring high-performance graphics cards in at an affordable price. And I would say they have kind of succeeded at that. They've kind of made mainstream hardware available that can also run VR. But at the same time, I feel like NVIDIA kind of cut them off. The 1060 was clearly the better card to the 480, unfortunately.
Oh no, I'd agree with that. Again, when it was first announced, I was ecstatic for the 480. I mean, it looked like it provided a GTX 980 potential up there in the power, low power draw, good frame rate. But as it was released, you had issues with power draw from the card itself with the motherboard.
Yeah.
And it was losing out to the 1060 in benchmarks quite handedly.
Let's not forget that the initial batch of benchmarks with the reference cards, the reference cards ran rather hot, and they were also limited by the 6-pin power connector. And in a lot of cases, the reference cards were just kind of hanging with the 970 and still falling short of the 980. In fact, I mean, AMD really hyped the card up as, this will perform like a GTX 980, and the initial batch of cards fell short of that. And I think that kind of hurt their image. Well, maybe it didn't, because from what I understand, the 480 is still selling like hotcakes.
Oh no, it is. Again, I think it's still above its MSRP in several places, and I think for what they were going for, it fit that that mid-range area.
Yeah.
But any momentum, NVIDIA has completely stopped with the 1060. I mean, maybe not so much with the 3GB model, but with the 6GB model, definitely. I mean, I would say it definitely really hurts the 470 and 480.
Now, I think it should be noted that the very tippity top end 480s actually do compete with the stock clock 1060s.
Yeah, the MSI and the I can't remember the
Power
other one.
Color.
Power Color, yes, and
Yeah.
I think the Devil brand. I mean, again, one thing I do kind of like. I mean, if they were at clock for clock speed, the 480 and the 460, the 480, I think would be significantly ahead. It would probably be 980 or above performance if they could reach that.
If Polaris could clock the way that Pascal does, they would have a clear performance advantage. But that seems to be a problem with the GCN architecture as a whole. They have never really clocked all that high, except for, I think, the first-gen GCN cards, the 7000 series. They clocked pretty high, like, for their generation of cards. But whenever you're going into, like, when you're comparing, like, let's say the R200 series and the R300 series, their clock speeds compared to the tail end of Kepler and Maxwell, they don't clock all that well. They just don't. I mean, what was the fastest card from that generation, like as far as the clock speed goes for NVIDIA? Oh, sorry, not NVIDIA, but AMD.
Oh, from that generation, I probably around the maybe 1,000 megahertz area. I mean, I know the Fury only goes up to, even on overclock, maybe 1,200 megahertz, I think.
I think the Fury actually tops out at 1,050 megahertz. It can't overclock any higher than that.
Yeah, power draw and, again, heat being a major issue with the cards. But if the clock could just be brought up, there would be significant competition. Yeah, between the 480 and the 460.
There's just architectural issues that get in the way of that. I'm like I said, we're not like tech experts. We are gaming enthusiasts, so we don't know the ins and outs of the architecture, but I think it's pretty obvious that the architecture is the problem with the clock speeds when it comes to AMD's cards. And I don't know, like when it comes to the 470, I think it's a little too close to the 480 in performance and price right now.
Yes, I think if you get maybe, I think it's what is, if you can get at least a small overclock on the 470, you're looking at, near 40 performance at a lower price point. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have the extra, 4 gigabytes, I guess, if you're going at a much higher resolution for gaming, but again, most people don't. So at the moment, the 470 would be the better value, especially if you can squeeze a little bit more out of it with an overclock.
I've seen some people overclocking it to nearly 1300 megahertz. That's pretty impressive considering its base clock. Now I know NVIDIA they've got the 1060 out. It kind of trounces the 480. It walks all over the 470. But then they're going to release this cut down 1060, the 3 gig 1060, which I don't understand the point of calling it a 1060 when it's got less CUDA cores and less VRAM. Like, this seems to me like it was meant to be a 1050, or this is the original 1060, and what they first released is the 1060 Ti.
Yeah, I'm not sure the whole their thought process behind that, because again, it's not like a 470 and a 480. I mean, who are more or less in the same power performance area, but the 1060 3 gigabytes for 6 gigabytes, it's two different cards, essentially.
Yeah. And I don't know. Do you think it will actually compete against the 470?
The 3 gigabyte model?
Yeah.
No, it just does not. It does not pack the power. I do not think that it will do particularly well compared to the 470.
What was the CUDA core count on the 3 gig model? I know the 6 gig model has 1,204 CUDA cores or something like that.
I would say that it's probably around maybe the 1,000 mark. Ooh. I think that's what it was.
That is way cut down.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I guess the 470 might actually be able to call itself the price to performance king even after the 6 gig 1060 comes out. Especially with the way NVIDIA is pricing their shit right now. That's NVIDIA, please knock off the Founders Edition thing. Nobody but dumb fanboys like it.
Yeah, again, the argument of superior build quality and style doesn't really match the extra 50, 60 or that's paying for it.
That's the Apple argument, isn't it?
But it's not going to be reflective of what you're going to be getting performance-wise at all.
I think that clearly shows with some of the benchmarks we've seen. Like the card that I have, the MSI 1070 Gaming X, compared to the Founders Edition, it smokes the Founders Edition.
Oh, certainly. Again, trying to milk the brand of what what NVIDIA was trying to do, compared to a third party where you have, again, much more leeway in terms of, let me rephrase. You can sacrifice more of that style for a significant performance boost as well as better temperatures and power.
Yep. Now,
I mean, there's no logical reason to go for a Founders Edition over a third-party card, except to say I have a Founders Edition, but you're also $50 poorer for it.
I'm really glad that AMD didn't really do anything like that. Now, we have one other Polaris card, and it's the 460. And I have to say, I had some hopes for this card, but when I first saw the benchmarks, they were thoroughly dashed. This card is... I don't care what anybody says, this card is a joke. It's an absolute joke. I mean...
Yes. AMD 950...
Yeah, it has 950 performance, but it should have been able to hit higher than that. I think they cut down the stream processors way too much on this card. I can understand going with just 2 gigs of VRAM, because when you're down in that bracket, you really don't need more than 2 or 4 gigs of VRAM. But the processor count got cut so much, it's night and day. The gulf between the 460 and 470 is enormous. And when the 1050 comes out, I have a feeling that the 460 is just going to get hammered. The 1050 is going to run circles around it.
Yeah, again, I think that the 1063 gigabyte will fall into the shadows of time, but the 460 I think will also probably join it there because it's not reaching that performance again, especially compared to the 950, which it sadly can't even beat on its new architecture.
They trade blows. In some games, the 950's faster. In some games, the 460's faster. The 460 isn't even significantly faster. It's just ahead by a few frames. Except for, I think, Hitman. I think Hitman was the standout title where the 460 trounced the 950.
Oh, certainly. I mean, again, built with AMD in mind. It's how the AMD Fury will smoke the 1070 in Doom.
Yep. Now, AMD's goal with Polaris was to try and snatch up the mainstream market, and I think to some extent they have had some success. But I don't know, man. I think what I've heard this argument made a lot. It's about NVIDIA's mind share. NVIDIA is everywhere. It's in every PC gamer's mind. You see them all over the place. They do promotions with game devs. They just have marketing that AMD cannot have. AMD doesn't have the budget for that kind of marketing. And it's also the fact that, for some reason, I guess because humans are still, tribalistic dunderheads as a whole, if you have, if one company has the fastest graphics card, that gets a bunch of other people thinking, well, I can't afford that, but I can have its baby brother, and that means it's faster than the competition because they have the fastest cards. That attitude it's everywhere. It's pervasive how common that attitude is amongst PC gamers. At least that's what I've noticed, on message boards and stuff.
Yeah, again, it's in the mindset. I mean, I don't recall seeing any AMD trailers for products, but I can, I'll see Intel or Nvidia, and and you see it just by passing the majority of games. Nvidia, the way it's meant to be played.
Mm-hmm. You see,
and we've seen that for years on games. It's there. It's at a subconscious level. You see AMD, you see Nvidia. Oh, cool! Nvidia's behind this.
And you would think that AMD would be aggressively pushing themselves, since they're the ones powering all the consoles right now. They would, really be hammering that point home. But they really didn't. Or maybe that has more to do with the mindset of console gamers versus the mindset of PC gamers.
Well, I think that even if, say, you take the Xbox One, if you take that, or the PS4, if you were to slap an AMD Radeon Inside logo on it and wait a couple of years, you would see a drastic increase in interest in AMD because they have that built up base of people who know about it, who like it, who've experienced the product.
Maybe. I think you would get a lot of console to PC converts who they have been brought up in gaming looking at the AMD Radeon Inside logo, and that's what they might go for whenever they make the jump to PC. Even though right now, I don't know if I could recommend a full AMD build, but they would probably go for it.
Yeah, again, NVIDIA has had a lot of time to build up, and they've been able to acquire, not just the financial resources, but the ability to embed themselves in so many games, especially big ones and big projects.
Yep.
That it's much harder for AMD to inch into an area. I mean, AMD was riding a great wave of excitement up to the release of the Polaris, the 1080. Crossfire performance for a 1080 using two 480s.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's wonderful. But the moment the 1060 is announced, that starts to waver. The brand power kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
And as we see now, the performance is better as well.
Now, it's not all doom and gloom for AMD, of course. They, like I said, the 480 has been selling really well. From what I understand, the 470s are also selling fairly well. Even the 460s are selling. That's not as good as their big brothers. But I think part of that might be a new mining craze. And we all know that AMD cards are better for, like, Bitcoin mining and shit like that. And I wonder how much of their sales lately are to do with the Ethereum mining instead of actual gaming rigs.
Well, given the price point of their cards and components, it wouldn't surprise me if it was, again, because you have the older cards. I mean, there's, I think, been a flood of 200s and below flooding the market. Yep. Now, which people are using for such mining rigs. Now,
okay, where we are now, NVIDIA is still clearly on top. I'm sorry, I like AMD, I want them to succeed, just because them succeeding is good for the customer, and I'm all about being pro-consumer. But what do you think the future holds in this? Because they've released the Pascal Titan already. It smokes a 1080. You know, it eats anything AMD currently has for breakfast. Like, even the Radeon Pro Duo doesn't stand up to the Titan Pascal. But AMD has also got Vega coming out very soon, and we're still hearing rumors of a 490. And the 490 is supposedly still a Polaris card, but it might be a dual Polaris card. I mean, do you think that AMD can actually match the top end of NVIDIA now with a possible 490 and the upcoming Vega cards?
I would say maybe, but I don't think it would be in their best interest to aim for that 1% margin. I think that they would have to reclaim the mid-range and the lower end of the high-tier cards to stay in the game, per se. I mean, the Titan X Pascal, I mean, I think it looks great for marketing and great for enthusiasts, but you're not going to make a lot of money off of it.
No. I mean, yes, those cards have really high profit margins, but you don't sell very many of those cards. I agree with you that they really do need something to compete at the low end of the high end, where the 1070 sets basically.
Yes, at least at that level. So I mean, to an affordable high performance gaming for an enthusiast, or at the very least, reclaim what the 1060, that spot that it took.
Yeah. Which a dual Polaris card could do that, but then again, it depends on how they do a dual card. If they do it the way that they did, like the 7990, the 295, and the Radeon Pro Duo, it's not going to really be that competitive because it will be completely reliant on crossfire support. What they would have to do is use what's called a multi-chip module, which isn't. It's not reliant on like crossfire support to run a dual GPU card. But I don't know if AMD's ready to put that out yet, because that seems to be what their future architecture Navi is supposed to be. So I don't know. Only time will tell. I'm still a little skeptical that we're going to be getting a 490. If you would have asked me 5 months ago, I would have said definitely we're going to get a 490, but not anymore.
Yeah, again, I would expect them to probably not do the 490 at this point. I think they will go for a whole new brand and stay away from the 400 series of naming for it.
Vega?
Probably. That's what I think they would do. Again, 1080, 1070, Titan X. So I think they would do a whole new naming system for their higher end cards to differentiate them from the 400 series.
Yeah.
To show that off that high end, high power name.
Performance-wise, I'm expecting something very similar to what we saw in previous generations with AMD. I'm betting they're going to have a card that it will thoroughly beat the 1070, but it's going to fall short of the 1080.
I would see maybe.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say they probably will have a card, at least I would say maybe around the 10-15% above the 1070. I don't think they would be able to reach that sweet spot midway between the 1080 and the 1070 and keep it at, say, a $400 price range. So I would expect maybe a 370, maybe 380 card nestled between the 1080 and the 1070, but more on the 10 or 15% above margin in terms of performance.
Yeah. I think that's Vega 10. That's the card that will probably fall into that performance slot. And then they might, just maybe, be able to edge out the 1080 by a hair with Vega 11. Maybe. But that Titan is still going to be looming over them. And I know you don't think they should go for that, but it still means a lot to be able to say you have the fastest graphics card on the planet. Because people eat that shit up.
Oh, certainly. Again, I think you get more out of it from, again, brand recognition. You know, ooh, NVIDIA, they make the most powerful graphics card.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, that is really good marketing, even if it doesn't really help you in the long run or give you massive sales. It's that word of mouth that, oh, this year for the Titan X, oh, it's $1,200. It's the most powerful card around. Who makes it? Oh, NVIDIA. NVIDIA makes the most powerful cards. And you get that into your, again, subconscious. NVIDIA, most powerful cards, best cards. So, NVIDIA's been having stuff like this working for them for many years.
Yeah, I don't think there's really been that many times in the past where AMD has had the performance crown. They've had the price to performance crown, but not the raw power crown.
No. I was very happy when I first got my 380. It was my first graphics card I ever bought. 200 USD for it, but the performance I got was. I was very happy with it. You know, it was somewhat under the 970, but a bit above the 960.
Yep.
At a better price than what the 960 was for 4 gigabytes at the same area.
See, I'm the same way with my 290 that I bought. I actually got my 290 for the same price you got your 380. Sniped it off of eBay. And the performance that I got for $200 was insane. It's absolutely insane. But I think we're starting to run a little bit long here on this video. Do you have any closing thoughts on how things have played out between AMD and NVIDIA this time around?
I think it's been very interesting to watch. Again, it was unfortunate that the 1060 sort of snagged away in AMD's opening bid. But I think that if AMD focuses on that mid-range, or at least gets a good card out, not even 1070 performance level, but just near it soon, I think they could see a substantial market share increase.
I'm kind of in agreement there. I think things have been heated so far. I don't think... now, I will agree, the 1060 did kind of steal the 480's thunder, but I don't think it completely halted it. Like, the 480 is still going pretty strong. So, I think AMD is going to gain market share from these mid-range cards. It's just not going to be as much as they had hoped it would. Cautiously optimistic is how I feel towards AMD right now for the future. Well, I guess that's all we have to say about this. If you liked the video, leave a like, favorite, subscribe. If you didn't like the video, talk shit in the comments, please. We love that. Have a good one.